Earth. Yes, I was born on Earth. A long time ago now. 2150, if I recall correctly. I was a child of the dying years, the last generation to breathe its poisoned air and walk its cracked soil before we fled into the void. I remember Manila before the sea swallowed it. I remember the taste of rain before the acid turned into poison. I remember the forests, the rivers, the life that still clung to the edges of a world that had no future. And I remember the fear that gripped my parents when the crops failed, the fear in the voices of world leaders, grasping at solutions long after they had lost control. We had reached too far, burned too fast, taken too much, and in the end, we reached the point of no return. There was hope once, or so the United Nations said. The Mars colonization program. It was meant to be humanity's second chance, a new Eden among the stars. I was just a boy when the first colonies were built there. People said it would save us, that if Earth was dying, we could simply start over on Mars. But Mars was never meant for us. The air was thin, the soil barren. Every crop grown in its dust needed life support. Every drop of water had to be pulled from the frozen ground. Even with all our technology, all our effort, it was never enough. Mars could house a few thousand, but it could never sustain billions. By the time I turned 16, it was clear the dream was dead. The colonies had become tombs. The air recyclers were failing. The people who had fled there to build a new life found only slow starvation. And yet, the governments refused to admit the truth. Too much had been invested, too much promised. They would rather die believing in the lie than face the reality of their failure. The Confederation of Southeast Asian Nations. Our leaders made the hardest choice of all. While the rest of the world clung to Mars, clung to a doomed planet, our leaders saw the truth. They did the unthinkable. They withdrew from the program. The critics called it cowardice, abandonment. They said we had betrayed humanity. But I saw it for what it was. It was not surrender. It was the only way forward. If Mars could not sustain us, if Earth was beyond saving, then there was only one path left. We had to leave the solar system entirely. Using what little time and resources remained, the Confederation built 4 massive colony ships.
T-minus 90 seconds and counting.
Arks, they called them.
All systems are go.
The Unisolar program. That was our answer. I was 23 when the launch came. I never thought Earth could look so small, or that leaving it behind would make me feel even smaller. The last of us, the last of Southeast Asia, leaving behind a world that had no future. 850,000 souls. We left behind friends, family, an entire history written in stone and soil. And we never looked back. It was hope that pushed us forward. We all knew the cost of our journey. 220 years into the void laid before us. We were ready to pay it 1,000 times. Earth was dying. I had already spent half of my life in the void, hanging on to a dream. The dream of Unisolar. To find a new home among the stars. To leave behind the ruins of Earth, the wars, the greed, the mistakes that had doomed our cradle. We dreamed of unity, of a second chance, of a future where humanity could finally be more than the sum of its failures. But it's hard to keep dreaming when the echoes of yesterday drown out the promises of tomorrow. When the stars, once a beacon of hope, become a vast and empty prison. When every choice is a gamble between survival and extinction. We thought we had prepared for everything, but in 2190, the universe reminded us how small we really were. Our sensors picked up the gamma ray burst too late. A pulse of radiation washed over the flotilla. We lost hundreds in the first few weeks. Radiation poisoning burned through their bodies, turned their blood to fire, their bones to dust. But the dead were the lucky ones. What our scientists discovered was horrifying. Our plants were dying, their DNA damaged from the gamma ray. Our wheat and rice shriveled, leafy greens withered on their stems. It was beyond repair. I remember the smell of burnt bodies in the corridors, riots breaking out in the lower decks, security forces forced to turn weapons on their own. We rationed, then we halved the rations, then we halved them again. Children stopped growing, the elderly faded in their sleep. We had hit a terrifying realization. With extreme rationing, our food stores would only last us 7 more months. Not enough to reach our destination. Not enough to go back home. We lost 200,000 souls, a third of our people. After 18 years in the void, the dream was dead. But fate had another plan. Aboard the Old Clanka, they had a theory, one that had always been dismissed as impossible: the sprawl drive. I remember seeing Dr. Suleiman Wijaya for the first time. His face gaunt from sleepless nights, his eyes burning with the desperate hope of a man on the brink of a miracle. The discovery of solemite, a material harvested from asteroids that were affected by the gamma ray, capable of immense energy, capable of changing our lives. We would not need centuries. We would not even need decades. We could cross the stars in moments. Space folded in on itself. The void collapsed before us. We did not reach T-Garden Star. Instead, the stars delivered us here. To the Sang Naga Cluster. A new home among the stars. A new beginning. Chasing a dream. The dream of Unisolar. After 21 years in the void, we arrived here. Humanity's new frontier. With dwindling supplies and the future of the human race uncertain, each Ark had to settle on its own world. Semerak, Sai, Hujan, and Merdeka. The 4 colonies of humanity's new home. While the colonies remained in contact, the difficulty of constructing more ships for space travel meant that we each had to forge our own path. The unity we once had became memory. Yet we still believed in the dream of Unisolar, that when we had rebuilt, when our city stood strong and our children no longer knew hunger, we would come together again, that these four worlds would be one. For over 80 years, we struggled to rebuild. Through sheer perseverance, the colonies re-established contact in the year 2274. Tragically, only 3 out of the 4 colonies survived. Merdeka and its people had succumbed to famine. And then came the vote. Should we remain 3 nations, or should we unite as one? It was the first and last great question of our new worlds. Some called for unity. Others whispered of sovereignty, of identity, of power. There was a real chance for a united solar government. Yet, in its death, Merdeka became more valuable than ever. The Merdeka Accords had forbidden any nation from claiming it to preserve the delicate balance of power. However, the discovery of Solemite on Merdeka, a material capable of powering entire cities, and our FTL drives shifted everything. A growing energy crisis on Hujan fueled them to do what they believed was necessary. A secret colony appeared on Merdeka, flags raised high. The government on Semarak, furious, dispatched a punitive fleet to enforce the accords. Hujan, unwilling to abandon their claims, deployed their own fleets. Weeks of frantic diplomacy were shot down in an instant when the darkness of space was lit up by missiles and railgun slugs. Full-scale war was only avoided when Psi intervened. Just like that, the dream of Unisolar was dead. We were meant to be one people, but when the time came to decide our fate, we chose division. The nations of the Sang Naga Cluster were born. The Malayuna Democratic People's Republic, the United Kingdoms of the Sang Naga, the New Sol Commonwealth. 3 nations, 3 flags, 3 paths. And now, after all we have suffered, after all we have lost, I look out and I see fleets gathering in orbit. I hear whispers of war, and I ask myself, was it all for nothing? We ran as far as we could. We fled light years from our own graves. And yet no matter how far we run, we carry our ghosts with us. My name is Teng Hao Yun, the first president of the New Sol Commonwealth, a survivor of the Exodus, a citizen of Psi, and a dreamer of what could have been. I'm old now. I don't have much time left. The future of the cluster, the future of my nation. It is no longer mine.